Candace Owens. She's lost her mind a little bit, yeah?
Yeah, I would say so. If anyone's wondering who Candace Owens is, she's a political commentator, proclaims to be a Christian. She has started with Turning Point USA. Then she moved over independently, and then she did some things with Daily Wire. Then she moved back to being independent. But have you've been seeing things on social media about the stuff she said about Charlie Kirk?
Ever since Charlie Kirk died, as we know, she has come up with dozens of conspiracy theories regarding who killed him, how he died, how he didn't die a certain way, the people involved, and
some of it's kind of funny. Maroon shirts, Egyptian airplanes, but others are harmful because it just goes beyond that. Okay, she's linking it to Russia, she's linking it to Israel, but she's even attacking people and family of Charlie Kirk, and that's where it gets a little harmful.
Yeah, she's calling out absolutely everybody, dude. I mean, literally everybody you could possibly even get like a smidge little possibility that they might be involved in some bizarre way. She's called them out. And honestly, man, I looked into it a lot. I looked into the stuff she's talking about. I've looked into the conspiracy theories, the people she's called out, stuff like that. Some of these people, like, I know very well. I've followed them for a very long time.
Yeah.
And there's just absolutely no way. And, you know, what we're going to do here now is we're going to look at a lot of the things that could be happening in her mind and throughout this whole thing that she's doing on YouTube and other platforms. And then we're also going to see what the Bible says about it, about doing these kinds of things and how seriously God takes these things and how he does not take them lightly.
Yeah. And before we get into that, I just want to clarify that, you know, we're not doing this to pile on to her. We're not trying to beat her up.
Oh yeah. No, not at all.
We love her boldness. She's out there. She's very bold. She goes at it. But a lot of it is half truth. And a lot of that can risk eternal harm spiritually.
Oh yeah, big time. And, you know, we'll get into it, but, you know, the Bible says a lot about, you know, not being a false witness. And what we've titled today's episode is the viral false witness. And we'll figure out why exactly it's called that, why exactly we are labeling her as that. That's not something that someone uses as a label lightly and just throws around, because God does not take false witnesses lightly at all. In fact, he sees them as an abomination, and we're going to get into that. But one of the first possibilities that kind of popped into mind, and like, you know how I am, I love psychology. I love, you know, how people think, how they act, stuff like that. And when it comes to trauma, there's 3 different ways that you can react to something traumatic. And I'm talking about anything. This can be, you know, losing a job. This can be losing a loved one, you know, anything, any type of trauma. There's many different types of trauma, but they're usually categorized into 3 different types. And these are the 3 different ways. So you can immediately mourn and move on after you're done grieving. So that's the most healthy way. Most people can't do that. Most people don't do that well. However, that is the ideal way to do it, to be able to say, you know, this hurt me. This is sad. I'm going to grieve. I'm going to feel all those feelings, and I'm going to move on. The second way is to fall into a depressive state that you can't get out of. It's, you know, letting it completely destroy your life, whatever that trauma is, to where you can't even move on from it. You're stuck in it. You're stuck in that cycle of thinking about it and how much it hurt you. The third way is avoiding the reality of the trauma entirely. And this can be done subconsciously, or it can be done consciously. But most of the time, it's primarily subconscious. And for this first possibility, the first thing that I noticed, and I'm not sure if you noticed this, Chris, or not, but it was something I picked up on. She posted her first video, her first video regarding Charlie Kirk and like the things that unfolded less than 24 hours after he was shot.
Yep.
24 hours. If anybody close to me was shot and killed, you would not hear from me for weeks. I would be so thrown off. I would not be our episodes right now, for example. There is no way that I could be making an episode 24 hours after one of my best friends is shot.
No, there's no way.
There's literally, it's not normal.
I mean, even when my mom passed away, I had to take time off from work. I just had to refocus on some things. And it's crazy that she was able to do that. You know, it reminds me of Job's friends when bad stuff happened to Job, and then they just jumped in immediately with wild speculation.
Oh yeah, immediately trying to give him all the ideas of, you know, maybe you did this wrong, or maybe this happened, or maybe that, like just immediately trying to solve it for him and give him ideas. Yeah.
She brings up a point later, when she starts, questioning the motives of the people around Charlie. And I've noticed that the things that she accuses them of, she didn't even do herself. Like we'll go into it, like with, Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk, she questions her, sincerity with fake crying and stuff, but you've not seen Candace cry once.
Exactly. And that's one of my biggest points too, because, you know, me and people that know me well, like I've said in previous episodes, I'm really good at reading people, phenomenal at it, always have been. Don't know where that gift came from. It's just something in me. And I've been watching her very closely. And that's the thing too, before we finish up this first possibility that I want to point out, is that the people who are constantly trying to point out the other people, I'm not talking about like what we're doing right now. I mean, constantly. Those people are usually the people you watch the most. For example, there's a job I used to work at, and there was a lady there who was constantly on me. I mean, constantly trying to, you know, point out the things I was doing wrong, about how, you know, I didn't enter my time card perfectly. You know, I wasn't doing this or that right at, my job. And turns out that she was stealing company time. She would put in dozens of hours and go home and do nothing all day and was not being caught. And the reason I point that out is that she was so focused on pointing out everybody's time card that I'd say probably 2 or 3 weeks into it, I caught on. I was like, something's off. Why is she so focused on people's time cards? And I would notice around work, I would never see her.
Yeah, I think that's what they call projection.
A projection, exactly. And I knew something was wrong. And that's a very real possibility. You know, we'll go into that in the second possibility here. But to finish up the first one, the thing with trauma and avoiding that reality consciously or subconsciously is that people can go into paranoia or suspicion of things that don't even exist. They would do that to try and avoid whatever has happened. For example, like here's a hypothetical thing that I hope never happens, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I got to pick somebody close to me because she claims that she was extremely close to Charlie and best friends, all this thing. She claims that. So I'm going to use that same example. So say I come home one day, and, you know, I'm not married, but say, you know, my wife is shot dead on the floor, right? And nobody's around. I start freaking out, call the police. They don't know what's going on. You know, the next day they call me, they say, hey, we got him. You know, we figured out who it is. And I want to avoid the reality of my wife that was just shot and killed. My brain sometimes can go into a paranoia or suspicion and try and solve something that's not there. For example, I don't want to mourn the fact that she's gone, she's dead. I need to mourn that. I will instead avoid by thinking, ooh, maybe someone else did it. Maybe it was one of her close friends. You know, her close friend, Brittany or whatever, she hasn't been texting her as much. And remember that one time they got in an argument a few weeks ago, and, you know, I looked at their texts and she seemed really upset. And also her boss hasn't been the nicest to her lately. In fact, I think she was thinking about firing her. Maybe this was his, you see what I'm saying? That you can easily go into that solving something that's not even there, and you can make connections that don't even exist.
Right. Because your mind is probably telling you that, you know, it couldn't have been that simple, and you're looking for a deeper solution when really it is what it is, that this is what happened. we found the shooter, we got him, he's arrested. But you always feel like there has to be more. And I want to point out before we go to the next one that if this is the case and she's trying to avoid any sort of grief or any, something like that, it's heartbreaking because we've all been there, whether you've had a breakup in a relationship, a friend or a family member died. We've all been there, and you try to avoid grief. So if that is the possibility and that is what it is, I just pray that she's able to find it and she's able to, grieve in a healthier way and avoid and stop doing these, false accusations and rumors.
Right. And like the thing is too, we've all done it in some way. Like it's not all of us have had a friend of ours shot and killed. However, we've had breakups. We've had, losing our jobs, stuff like that, to where we avoid in different ways. For example, you have a bad breakup. Mm-hmm. Obviously the working the day of is never fun. Nobody wants to have to work a full shift the day you get broken up with. However, a lot of people will dive deep into work to avoid feeling the pain of being left. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. And people will consciously or subconsciously do that. So that is a very real possibility. However, our second possibility here is a little more extreme. So an extreme is in, it's frightening to think about that she could be doing this. However, it's a very real possibility.
It's not one that I want to
be a reality.
Right. But it is definitely possible because there are people out here who do this.
Right. And that is purposefully deceiving people. From what we've seen, it definitely appears that Candace may be using Charlie Kirk's death as an opportunity to grow her fame. So after her first video, she began to release live videos every few days with new conspiracies, bizarre accusations, and weird connections. You can tell from her extreme lack of evidence that she is grasping for straws for content. She lets her viewers know, and I don't know if you listen to all of her stuff, but she does this every time. She lets them know that she's got something groundbreaking the next episode. And it's always something ridiculous. Like, it's like, guys, I've solved it. I figured it out. I got something crazy going on with Israel or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then the next episode, it'll be like a pointless screenshot or some random, like, the kind of, what's the word for it? Where it's like, the lack of evidence isn't evidence in itself. Like that's 90% of her stuff is that.
Yeah. Like she found a text message. Yeah. With no name on it, just from some random thing. Who knows where that came from?
That, or it's like, she'll be like, well, this person didn't do this. So like they must be responsible. It's like, you can't judge, and that's not evidence in itself. Like that's not, for example, when it comes to police work, detective work, that's not how you can't use that as evidence. So say something happens to your fiance or something like that. Mm-hmm. Lord, please don't ever let something happen. But say something happens and you don't freak out. They can't use that as evidence saying, oh, well, he seemed kind of calm afterwards. That's not evidence. There's a million different reasons that you could seem calm afterwards, and you can't use that as evidence to justify that you're responsible, which is what she does with 90% of her things.
Right. And, she's, and I'm going to credit where credit's due. She is a good marketer. She's masterful at dangling the carrot and leading people on.
Oh, yeah.
But you can have a really great skill and abuse that skill. And I have a list of people here who she has routinely accused of being involved in Charlie Kirk's murder.
Yeah.
So we have, starting with his wife, Erica, then his chief of staff, Mikey McCoy, even Frank Turek, Turning Point USA itself. His organization, his entire organization was out to get him. Mm-hmm. She blamed Israel and, Benjamin Netanyahu. And I know where that one's coming from. It's quite popular right now to criticize Israel because of the whole war thing. So let's pile that in. She's even, blamed Donald Trump for it, ties to Epstein and maybe trying to cover up or, dissuade people from the Epstein stuff. She's blamed Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. She's even blamed Kash Patel, Egyptian planes, people in maroon shirts, special forces, Calvary Chapel pastors. I mean, that is so random. That's such a random list of people that would have to conspire and plan in order to take out just one person.
Right. And the thing is, funniest part about it too, it's just comical to even think about with most of these people. My first big one is Frank Turek. So Frank Turek, he's a Christian apologist, and he goes to universities, and he'll host these things where Christians or non-Christians can come up and ask him questions and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Or I believe in this, tell me why I'm wrong, whatever. And he does that all the time. He's a huge apologist, very big Christian. He's walking with the Lord big time. I've watched him for many years, and to think someone like that is involved, and not even that, check this, like her idea of why he's involved is the fact that he was near Charlie a few seconds before Charlie got shot, and he adjusted his ball cap. He reached up and moved his ball cap, and she was saying that was signaling the sniper to shoot Charlie at the right time. So let me get this straight. There's
so ridiculous.
Let me just put this together, like with my great detective skills, I'm going to put this together because I think it makes a little bit of sense. So let me get straight. So a sniper working by himself with no spotter, right?
Right.
Remember that, working by himself. He zeroes in his scope on Charlie Kirk, and he decides that the time for him to shoot is when Frank Turek, the apologist that's standing to his right, is going to signal with his ball cap that he's allowed to shoot. Because, it makes sense, because the guy, the younger guy, Tyler Robinson, he might not have been allowed to shoot, and he needed to get Frank Turek's approval to be allowed to shoot Charlie. It makes no sense. There's it literally makes no sense. Like, I can't even put it together without laughing.
No one would pull an assassination attempt and stand right next to the person that's going to be assassinated. What if the bullet missed and hit you? None of it makes sense.
And the big point, the people who might not know how snipers work, they usually have a spotter with them, and the spotter identifies how, the distance, the wind, the velocity, stuff like that, so that they can make an accurate shot. And that person would have been the one that would have been able to see Frank. There was no spotter. Second of all, that guy, we all know how scopes work. They're very zoomed in, especially if you're getting that precise of a shot. That guy, whoever was aiming, say it's Tyler Robinson, the person that was arrested, was aiming at Frank, 3 or 4 yards to his left, and then has to go back to Charlie when it's time. It literally just doesn't make
within a matter of seconds.
It makes no sense.
No, it's just
like, I can't even put it together. And Mike McCoy, this is a great one. So, Mikey McCoy is Charlie Kirk's chief of staff, or he was at Turning Point USA.
Yeah.
And Candace said that, and I saw the video. I saw what she was talking about, because I want to be able to, try and give some credibility to what she's talking about. So I looked at what she was talking about. She showed the video of Mikey making a phone call right after Charlie was shot while everybody's running and dispersing and freaking out. And the person he was calling was Charlie's wife, Erica. And I thought that was a little odd at first. I was like, sure, yeah, that is a little odd. And then I find out later that Charlie, this is what Frank said, and I saw it somewhere else as well, but Frank said this, that Charlie drilled into Mikey McCoy, telling him to make a phone call directly to Erica if he has ever hurt, shot, anything like that, ever. That is what he told him. So Mikey was doing exactly what he was supposed to do. Second of all, a lot of people, when they're in a traumatic event, their adrenaline shoots up, and they don't even realize what's happened until minutes, hours, or days later. And it easily could have been that as well. That man probably panicked. He thought, oh my gosh, this is happening right now. He just got shot. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm making the call. I would be calm in that situation too, because I know I have a mission in that moment. I'm not freaking out trying to help him. I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I just go straight to it. It makes total sense. There's no conspiracy.
No, I mean, this is what he was trained to do. And he was obviously told and trained to call his wife, which would make sense. If something happened to my fiance, I would like to know. I would like to know almost immediately.
Literally right away.
Right away.
Right now. Tell me what's happening.
Yeah.
So since we're on the subject of Frank Turek, dude, check out this video. Someone asked a question about Candace Owens. Look what he says to him.
Watch it.
I haven't followed a lot of what Candace Owens has done, but I will say what I have seen, there's a difference between a possibility and evidence for a possibility. You can speculate on anything you want, but unless you have evidence, shut up. Okay? Because all you're doing is causing dissension among the brothers, which is something the Lord hates.
Yep.
If you want to present a possibility and say, well, this could be true, okay, it could be true, but don't accuse people for doing something for which you have no evidence.
Correct.
I heard today, I guess I hadn't seen it myself, but I heard today she was judging people who didn't act the right way. I don't know if anyone seen this video? She according to Candace Owens, these people did not act the right way after Charlie's death. Like my friend Mikey McCoy, the brilliant 24-year-old who at the time when Charlie was shot was 23 and was a hero that day. He apparently didn't act the right way according to Candace Owens. He didn't act normal. Newsflash, there is no normal when you're in shock. There is no normal when an abnormal thing happens. Some people are going to act one way, other people are going to act another way. You don't know how you would react, but don't say that because I'm observing. Psychologists know you can't even get in somebody's head when they're on the couch.
Well, she's not even a psychologist.
That's true. Yeah.
And yet you're going to judge people on video from afar?
Yep.
Save it. You're adding pain to people who had enough pain.
Yeah, he's completely right. What is the right way to act in something like that? The most disciplined person can freeze up in a time of crisis.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's no specific way you're supposed to respond to something traumatic. In fact, nobody responds the exact same way.
None.
And like the three that I gave at the beginning, like where were they? The immediately mourning, moving on, falling into depressive state, or avoiding. Those are the three most common ones, but there's still some different, there's a little bit of navigation depending on which one you do. Like you're going to respond a little differently. You might do a little bit of each one, but you can't predict like, oh, that person's doing, number three, they're avoiding. Like that's not how it works. The brain is very complex. It's not that simple.
Right. And that's why, a lot of people, believe the second possibility is the possibility of what she's doing, because you're grifting off of tragedy. And anyone who knows, who's done, just 5 minutes on the internet knows that the bigger and more outrageous the claim, the more clicks and views you're going to get.
You got a couple verses here
that
show why you need to be very careful with this. And, the first one here, is, Proverbs 25:9. This is a big one. So, argue your case with your neighbor and do not reveal the secret of another. And also says in verse 8, do not go out hastily to argue your case. Otherwise, what will you do in the end when your neighbor puts you to shame? So what this is saying is that when you have an issue with somebody, first argue your case with your neighbor. Go to them, tell them, hey, I believe this might be happening. Is this the truth? They say no, they say yes, maybe. Argue your case. It does seem like something's a little off here. I'm having a little bit of trouble trusting you. You might be involved, whatever. Tell them why. Let them respond. That's arguing your case directly one-on-one, not blowing it out for millions of people to see online.
Yeah.
Millions.
So for example, she has an issue with Frank Turek, go to him and just get his side. Hey, Frank, that day when Charlie was shot, you want to tell me your side, your story to that? What happened? What were you thinking? What was your emotions? Curiosity. What happened? And let Frank tell you his experience. Don't insert what you think Frank's experience was, whether it was even if it was benign, even if Frank did everything right, you still shouldn't just assume what his experience was. Go to him.
Right. Which is why this possibility is what I think to be the most accurate possibility. Obviously, I'm only
sadly
guessing. However, the reason for that is any stable-minded person, if they have an issue with something, or they have a concern or worry, or, they think someone might be involved, you go to that person. Say in this case, it was somebody random that she called out, right? Some random person on Twitter or something. That's a little bit harder to go straight to than Frank Turek, someone that someone that Charlie was very close to. That is very easy to go to. You can message him. He knows who you are. She knows who he is. Mm-hmm. And it's as simple as one message, talking to him, doing a podcast together, doing an episode together, talking to each other, saying like, hey, it was a little odd that day, Frank. Like, what happened? Let him explain it. I'm sure he'd be happy to.
Yeah.
But calling him out, saying that, the thing that he did seemed like he might have signaled the sniper to shoot Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. Like it's calling somebody from third base home or something.
Right.
Like,
exactly. It makes no sense.
So here's the thing. If this isn't being done on purpose, which a lot of people believe it is, then there can only be one other thing. And there could be some sort of mental stability going on.
So, for example, I worked at, I won't say which hospital since everybody can hear this, but I worked at a hospital as a corporal security officer. I started off as a regular security officer, got promoted to corporal, was the shift supervisor. And we had 4 different psych units. And in there, I had to restrain, wrestle, and fight anywhere from 5 to 15 patients a day. Mm-hmm. It was very wild, very fun, but very wild. But I would have to wrestle and fight with people that were trying to harm nurses, that were trying to harm me.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people had very bad mental illnesses. They could have bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, many different other things, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, anything. They had all these different kinds of diagnoses. And a lot of them were on drugs when they first came in, which is obviously the worst. And when I would talk to these people, when I would talk to them when they were in their psych units and more stable, or when I would talk to them in, the ED when they first come in, they would talk like they were on another planet. They would make connections that did not exist. They would tell me that I was working for the CIA, the Men in Black, that I was an angel, that I was a demon, that I was in there planning to kill them, that all the nurses around there were planning to kill them, that the nurse behind me that just picked up a needle that actually had an antipsychotic in it was actually poison, and we were going to poison them and lock them in the hospital and nobody would ever find them. And the thing is, these people were so out of it that the things they were pointing out were real things. They were things that were actually happening. But when the mind is not stable, it makes connections and exacerbates things that are there. For example, the needle, an antipsychotic to help them stop thinking out of their mind, they thought was poison. So apophenia is described as the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. The term was coined by psychiatrist Klaus Conrad in his 1958 publication on the beginning stages of schizophrenia. By no means do I think she has schizophrenia. She's not showing signs of schizophrenia. But the point is that when somebody is mentally unstable, they're more likely to experience apophenia, which is obviously the tendency to make connections that aren't actually there. So you can make connections of, it's not just with stuff like this, it's the big conspiracy theories too, like the most bizarre ones. I'm not going to call them out, make people think they're crazy. I'll let them figure that stuff out on their own. But there's big ones that people make connections that just don't exist.
Yeah.
Like, here's one big one. And if you don't agree, that's fine. But the moon landing, for example, they will say that it never happened. They actually got, the first man on the moon they tried to make him put his hand on the Bible and swear that he went to the moon. And the guy said that he didn't even know that was a real Bible. He didn't know if it was a messed up Bible and they were trying to trick him, whatever. And they immediately made that connection that since he did not put his hand on the Bible and swear they went to the moon, this guy that randomly went up to him, interviewing him, and not a very nice guy, they made that connection that since he didn't do that, that's proof that we didn't go to the moon. It's a random connection that has no means of real hard evidence, and they come to a conclusion to fit the conspiracy theory that they already have.
Whether he would have done that or not, they would have came to the same conclusion that he lied about the moon landing. It's all just a lie, because that's what a conspiracy theory does, is you can rationalize any answer in order to justify your theory. And I want to make it clear, we're not trying to diagnose her, but someone connecting these many unrelated dots, it just raises red flags that something deeper is going on.
And, a couple verses to go with that is Proverbs 19:2, where it says, "Desire without knowledge is not good, and whoever makes haste with his feet misses his way." And another great one, Proverbs 18:13, that we see a lot with her. "He who gives an answer before he hears, it is folly and shame to him." As in, she is saying all these things that are happening while refusing to accept any knowledge. She doesn't go out there to, say, "Oh, what did this person say? What actually happened? Then let me respond to it." She just speaks.
Yeah. She answers first before listening.
So I don't know if I told you about this, but I have a newsletter that I send out, and anybody who's listening, y'all are welcome to subscribe to it. It's completely free if you want it. It's called Watchman's Report on Substack, but I send it out once a day, usually in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. And one of the recent ones I did here, I actually pulled it up because it just popped in my head. It was called 100% Speech, 0% Understanding. And it's talking about fools who always want to speak and never want to listen. And Proverbs 18:2 is one of the verses that I used in it. And it says, "Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions." Exactly what she's doing. She doesn't want to hear what anybody else has to say. The truth of maybe this is happening, this is what actually happened that day. She doesn't want to hear it. She just wants to say her opinion and keep people riled up. This last possibility here that we talked about her possibly being mentally unstable, that is a very real possibility. However,
it's probably the least.
It's
likely.
probably the least. The one that we're really zoning in here is that she's purposely deceiving people. And that is why we decided to make this whole episode, because it's concerning, because at one point she was the biggest podcast in the world. It was a couple weeks ago, I can't remember the exact day. She was the biggest podcast in the world. So people are listening to this stuff and believing everything that she says. And you can tell that she liked, like you said, the dangling the carrot on the stick. You can tell that that's what's happening, because after every episode, for example, anybody with marketing, with our podcast, with episodes, we know how to, make you excited to want to watch the next episode or come back for the next one. Hers is different. It's more manipulative, as in, I always got something new. I always got something great. I found out something brand new, and there's never any evidence for it.
It's the same when you're in high school and you have that, one group of people, who just continuously gossip about everyone, spreading false rumors, and it catches on. People get bullied, people get picked on, because people believe those things. And that's what she's doing, in my opinion, is, she's no different than, the high school girl who wants to gossip about everyone and spread just false rumors about people and just cause issues for her own popularity, for her own, grift money. That's what I believe it is. And it's sad to think that, because she actually is a very bright woman.
Yeah, she's very intelligent too, which is why these other possibilities are less likely.
Yeah.
She's smart. She's, she's very active in all the things that she does. She cares about the things that she's, putting her attention to. And it's sad to see that go to waste with something like this. And the saddest part too about all these people that are listening to the videos that she's posting is that Proverbs 14:15 says this: the naive believes everything, but the sensible man considers his steps. And what this means is that you can't believe everything that you hear. You can't believe every single thing that she says. I mean, maybe, so for example, say, you like a certain conspiracy theory, like say you like a Bigfoot or something like that. Sorry to break it to everybody's listening. Bigfoot is not real. But say you like it, you like the entertainment of it. You can watch a cool show like Finding Bigfoot. Me and my brother Aaron used to watch the show called Finding Bigfoot back in like 2010 or something like that. It was just entertaining. It was funny. It was a bunch of dudes going out in the woods screaming, trying to find Bigfoot. It's entertaining. But something like this, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, is not entertaining. So these people that are listening are probably not there for the entertainment. They probably think that what she's saying is actually true. In fact, I know some people who truly do think that what she is saying is true. But if you dive deep into the things that she's saying and really trying to make the connections yourself, you will realize that there's no hard evidence and actual structure to what she's saying. And she's feeding off of these naive people. She's making so much money off of it and so much fame by just bringing them back for more stupid nonsense.
Look them up yourself. Don't take our word for it. Even the Bible verses.
Yeah.
Pull up the Bible verses, pull up the scriptures and read them for yourself, because the biggest harm you can do for yourself is to blindly listen to another person without backing up those sources.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people fall for that, despite what people might think. Human beings can be very trusting. And when they find someone that they can put their trust in this case would be Candace, when she says these things, they're gonna trust it. It's gotta be true. Yeah. Why would she lie to me? Yeah. What purpose does she gain to lie to me? Yeah. And you might not be thinking of that. It's subconscious. And we do that all the time. When your doctor, you go to your doctor.
Oh, why would they lie?
Why would they lie? Why would your doctor? Okay, so he said your leg was broken. Let's get that fixed. Well, I don't know if it's actually broken, doctor. I don't believe you. Let me go walk. I'm going to prove you, Laura. Right. So you or your pharmacist, go to your pharmacist and he gives you the medicine. Do you test it? No, you put your faith in that. And a lot of people put their faith in Candace and she manipulates that. Yeah. She tells them false stuff. So if you do listen to not just us, but any podcasts or anything, or if you read stuff on social media, always source it. Always do the work yourself and source it.
Yeah. And to wrap up here, the reality is this, whichever possibility is most accurate, we don't know, but we should be praying for Candace and everyone who listens to her. We need to pray that she either accepts the trauma and grieves, or stops abusing the influence and fame, which is what we think she's doing, or that she will be healed mentally. And we should all keep in mind these verses that we've shared today in Proverbs. I love the book of Proverbs. Anybody who knows me knows I love the book of Proverbs. The most important verse is to seriously reprove Candace and anyone who engages in this type of behavior is this. And I doubt Candace will listen to this, but if you do, I hope that you listen to this part, because I would not ever want to fall into the hands of the living God for something that is very avoidable. And that is this. Proverbs 6:16-19 says this: there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes, which is being proud, being full of yourself.
Yep.
A lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, and a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers. So as you can see here, God does not play around with these things. These are things that he despises. And with number 2, which is what we think she's doing, purposely doing this, she's doing multiple things here. One, she's lying. She knows that she's lying. She knows that she's reaching heavily. She might not be directly outwardly lying, but she's reaching big time when she knows she shouldn't. She's also being a false witness, saying, I've heard this, I've heard that, I've seen this, I've seen that, and has no evidence to back it up. You're being a false witness. And the biggest one among them all is sowing discord among brothers. She is sowing so much discord among the United States, among us in Israel, the left and the right, or people who agree with her, people who don't agree with her, like the people who probably do agree with her, they're listening and cringing or getting mad at us right now. That is because of what she's doing. If she was not doing this, there would be no discord. But she is sowing discord among the brothers, which are, God's people. And God cannot stand that. He hates division. Mm-hmm. He hates falsehood. He hates people going against one another. He can't stand it. So if you're someone who's engaging in this, like Candace, someone primarily engaging in it, or if you are engaging in it secondary, as in you're hearing the stuff that she's saying and you're spreading it to anybody that will listen, you're doing the exact same thing. And if you pause and let God speak to you, he will convict you, because what you're doing is being a false witness, and God, hear me, God does not play around with that. And you may not see the punishment right now, but it will come. You will get what's coming for you, because being a false witness is no joke, as you can see here.
Yeah. Here's your challenge. Refrain from any of the conspiracy content. Read the scriptures that we listed in this podcast today, from the book of Proverbs. Pray for Candace, that she might find truth. And if she, is avoiding grieving, that she can get past this and actually grieve for her friend. And pray for Erica, Charlie Kirk's family, the organization, and just commit to being, people, Christians who speak the truth, not ones that spread rumors and create conflict amongst your fellow Christians.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have the verses listed in the description, but just a quick rundown on each one. We've got Proverbs 3:29-30, 14:15, 25:8-10, 18:13, and 19:2. And then the one about the 6 things that the Lord hates and the 7 that are abomination to him, that is Proverbs 6:16-19. If anyone hasn't done it before, I highly suggest that you go through the book of Proverbs. I don't know if you've done that before. Book of Proverbs, fantastic, because it's simple. So let's say you want to read the book of Matthew. You got to read multiple chapters. You got to go through multiple passages. You got to get the whole theme. It's more like reading a book, right? But Proverbs, you can open that up. You can read one verse in 3 seconds and you have more knowledge and you have more wisdom. Mm-hmm. That's the best part about Proverbs. It's literally like a manual, and just open it up. Oh, look at all these Proverbs, memorize some, and it'll give you wisdom to navigate your life. If you know anybody that engages in conspiracy theories or that believes them very easily, please share this episode with them, because it might teach them to stop following things so blindly. Also, if you don't know me, I am the men's minister at Palmetto Community Church. My name is Caleb Holly, and I do a daily newsletter. And this newsletter has, biblical knowledge. It has guidance on your walk with Jesus Christ. It's called the Watchman's Report. You can find me on Substack. Just type in Caleb Holly. You'll see Watchman's Report. It's a free subscription, or you can pay if you'd like. But I got a lot of people that are really enjoying it. And if you'd like to have, daily scriptural knowledge and just something to keep you going throughout the week, we have so much social media full of just a ton of toxicity, but it's really nice from what I'm hearing, all these people who really enjoy being able to have scripture that they can wake up to, or that they can finish their day with, that helps them be closer to Christ every single day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time. Guys, stay vigilant. God bless. Share with a friend who needs to hear it,
who may be engaging in conspiracy theories. Script, bro. Last one. I can't stand scripting it, bro. You know what I did different?
What?
You spray it in your mouth and keeps your mouth salivated. Pretty cool stuff. It's made for dry mouth.
Dude, if you left that in there.
Right. I forgot about it.